Mr. Chair, thank you, Minister, for coming here. And I think the only thing I can agree with you on here is that there were brave and heroic firefighters that were fighting on the front lines. And once this fire started, I don't believe there was anything they could have done to have stopped it because of just the intensity of this fire. But you've come in here, Minister, with quite a lot of bravado. You've talked about the great job that your government's done, that Jasper is the most prepared town for a fire, and yet 1/3 of the town was allowed to burn down. Nearly $1 billion worth of damage. 2,000 people are homeless. Do you have any humility, Minister? Is there any admission that your government could have done more to prevent this fire from destroying 1/3 of the town? What could you have done, Minister?
It's quite ironic that your party, of all parties, would be talking about that when you oppose systematically every measure we put in place to fight climate change, or even to adapt.
Just a second, Mr. Lloyd. We're not in question period here.
You oppose
can we just stop a second?
Yes.
Stop a second. Just pause for a second. Let's just calm down and have a meaningful exchange. So, where were we at? Were we at your answer or your question? I'm sorry, I was talking to Mr. Morris.
I'm here to listen to the Minister right now.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I find it incredibly ironic that your party, of all the parties in the House of Commons, would be asking these questions when you oppose both measures to fight climate change and measures to adapt to climate change. Climate change is a reality. You may dispute
your
this.
Measures
your party may not
to protect the town
recognize
of Jasper.
this, but it's real, and we won't prevent.
And you are not showing any humility. You're not giving Canadians any solace.
This is not about humility and modesty, and we're not going to get into.
I'd like to move on to my next question.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Minister, in 2017 and in 2018, in multiple letters sent to your predecessor, Catherine McKenna, Minister at the time, Ken Hodges and Emil Began, who are forestry scientists, warned your government that Parks Canada was not capable of preventing this fire, that the actions that they had taken to date were not capable of preventing these forest fires. They said it was a matter of when, not if. Why did Parks Canada fail to take the actions necessary to prevent this devastating wildfire?
I respectfully disagree with the characterization of your question. Andrew, I'm wondering if you want to talk about, I've spoken about some of the things that Parks has done. Maybe you want to add a few things?
Yeah, so through the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Council, of course, Parks Canada gets a lot of support and uses a cross-Canada, government-wide, federal, provincial standard of how forest fires are fought, what the information that goes into that.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm going to have to cut this off.
Well, why?
It's going quite slowly.
Okay,
so.
Well, go ahead with your next question. It's your time.
In 2018, Minister, your own Superintendent of Parks, Alan Fair, went on CBC and said, quote, fire is not something that we're actually concerned about. He claims that your department did its homework to protect Jasper. Do you stand by the words of your superintendent? Was fire not a concern in Jasper National Park? Did you do your homework? Yes or no?
Since that interview, $86 million wasn't...
$6 million.
$86 million.
For Jasper National Park?
Yes. Some of it for Jasper, some of it for the other national parks
all across the country.
Alberta.
Mr. Lloyd, excuse me, I'm going to stop the time.
Compared to the $2 million...
excuse me. I like robust debate myself personally, and I have no problem with that. But please let the minister answer the question, so that we can find out the truth or an approximation of it. Go ahead.
So since that interview was done, $86 million was invested, compared to $2 million when you were in power. $2 million, 86 million.
That's false, Minister. But I will go on. In 2020, your government announced $6.9 million over 3 years for Jasper National Park. The Alberta Forest Products Association, in an open letter in 2017, said it would take $85 million to protect the park. And yet your government only invested $6.9 million over 3 years. The proof is in the pudding. A third of the town of Jasper burned down, and you're here to this committee bragging about a $6 million investment? It's not nearly enough, Minister.
En fait, vous faites erreur. C'est 6.9.
You are wrong. It was 6.9 million for pine beetle infestation, but it was 79 million total. So it's wrong to say it was just 6 million. We added 79 million after that.
Why was thousands of hectares of dead pine beetle-infested trees allowed to be in close proximity to the town of Jasper? Thousands of hectares. Your government says that you've removed 1,700 hectares since 2014. Well, in a 2022 report, your own department said that they only removed 1.6 hectares of White Park pine. Like, there are thousands of hectares of dead pine beetle trees in the vicinity of Jasper. Why were these allowed to stay there when they represented a serious threat to the town? All these experts knew it. Why didn't you remove them?
Good question.
So through the 1,700 hectares that were removed, so, you know, about 17 square kilometers, which is about 8 times the size of the town of Jasper, just to put it in perspective for
In
people.
a 1 million square hectare
was-
park.
Correct, but with a lot of that park not being the town. We can all agree to that, I'm
Yes.
sure. So within that, you had a large buffer zone, and on top of that, and, you know, Landon is the vegetation and fire specialist out of Banff.
How much time
On
do I have
top
left,
of,
Chair?
on top of that, we have a whole series of ramp types of, you know, there's a large, and I don't want to just call it a sprinkler system, but a high-powered sprinkler system that protects the town, that goes up, you know, 12 meters in height, that protects a large area of the town.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to
All of
cut it off
those
here.
types
We're way
of-
over time. We're way over time. But anyway, it's very complex, I know.
Thank you for your professionalism, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Longfield.